So you know that feeling, right? Where the day just sort of evaporates.
Yeah, like you're always behind, always chasing the clock.
Exactly. It feels like there's just never enough time, no matter what.
That feeling. It's almost the background noise of modern life, isn't it?
Well, today on the deep dive, we're going to dig into that. We got a prompt from a listener pointing us to Laura Vanderkam's book, 168 Hours. You have more time than you think.
Ah, yes. Based on some audiobook excerpts they shared.
Right. So our mission here is to basically pull out the key insights, give you a really solid, quick understanding of her take on time, how we use it, how we think we use it.
Think of it as the highlight reel. We're filtering for the surprising bits, the actionable stuff, you know, keeping it useful.
Because her main idea is actually pretty optimistic. She says, look, there are 168 hours in a week. That's actually a lot of time, maybe more than we feel we have.
Yeah, it's a number that kind of makes you stop and think.
And she starts the book describing this Tuesday in her own life. Just a regular Tuesday, but...
What stood out about it?
Well, it was packed. Hours of writing, real time with her son. She exercised. She had this long volunteer thing in the evening, like a 17-hour day.
Wow, okay.
But the kicker is, she didn't describe it as exhausting. She called it a good day. And that right there kind of challenges how we usually think about busy days, right?
Totally. That automatic link between full schedule and totally drained.
Okay, so let's dive into that core feeling first, the sense that we're all just running out of time.
Yeah, the time scarcity thing, it's everywhere. Everyone talks about how slammed they are.
It's like a badge of honor sometimes, isn't it? Being busy.
It really is. But Vanderkam, she contrasts that feeling with her own experience in interviews she did with these really accomplished people.
Right, people with a lot going on.
Exactly. And they often felt like, yeah, they could actually fit more in if they really wanted to, which makes you wonder, is this feeling of scarcity always, accurate?
Good question.
And she brings in some history, too, which I found fascinating. Like a 1959 Harvard Business Review piece worrying people would get bored because we were becoming so productive.
Bored? Can you imagine?
I know. Then flash forward to the 90s, Juliet Shore's book, The Overworked American, and suddenly the narrative is all about being completely overwhelmed. Such a shift.
It's wild, and that Real Simple magazine question she mentions kind of sums it up. What would you do with an extra 15 minutes?
And the answers were so small. Play with the dog, write a quick note, pick up a hobby again.
Yeah, it really shows this, quiet longing for just a tiny bit more space in the day.
But then she contrasts that with someone like Teresa Day. Remember her?
The one running the big business, 6 kids.
That's her.
Yeah.
And she still finds time for hiking, for hobbies. Her whole mindset is, I'm in charge of me. She focuses on her priorities. It really pushes back against that idea that everyone is time poor.
Okay, so if that's the feeling, where does the time actually go? That's where the data comes in, right? The American Time Use Survey.
Yep, the ATUS from
Yep.
the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's pretty solid because it relies on time diaries, not just guessing how long you spent doing things.
More accurate, less wishful thinking, maybe?
Probably. And some of the findings really buck the common wisdom, like sleep.
Right. We all feel like we're running on fumes, but the survey shows Americans still average about 8 hours.
Even parents with young kids. The average for working married moms with young kids. Over 8 hours. Dads, too.
So that feeling of constant exhaustion, maybe it's perception, or maybe it's about the quality of sleep, not just the hours.
Could be. Or maybe we just focus on the really bad nights. But it definitely makes you question other assumptions, too, like the crazy long work weeks.
Yeah, we hear about 80-hour weeks all the time, but the survey...
Suggests that's not the norm for most full-time parents. It's more like 35 to 43 hours a week, typically.
And those extreme jobs, the 60-plus hour ones.
According to one study she cites, it's a pretty small slice, maybe around 1% reporting those kinds of hours regularly.
Huh. Okay, so maybe not everyone is working quite as much as the narrative suggests. What about housework? That's changed massively.
Oh, dramatically.
Yeah.
Back in '65, stay-at-home moms were clocking almost 38 hours a week just on cleaning and upkeep.
Wow.
Now, even with way more women working outside the home, working moms average around 14 and a half hours. And dads are doing more, too.
So where did all that time go?
That's a huge shift in how homes are run. But then there's the time with kids. This one surprised me.
Yeah, the amount of time spent in, direct play or focused interaction.
It averages out pretty low, actually, even for stay-at-home parents. We're often talking just minutes per day for focused play.
Full-time working moms, maybe just a few minutes. Stay-at-home moms with preschoolers, maybe closer to half an hour. It does make you think about quality versus quantity, I guess.
Definitely. And then quickly, the TV thing. Nielsen says TVs are on for hours and hours.
But the time diaries show people actively watching for much less time.
Right. Lots of background noise, maybe. It just highlights how important it is to be specific when you track your time.
Okay, so if the data shows we might have more time than we think, or at least spend it differently, how do people like Teresa Day manage it? You mentioned core competencies and priorities.
Yeah, core competencies, basically. The stuff you're really good at and actually like doing.
So for Teresa Day, that was her business, her family, and taking care of herself.
Exactly. And the key is consciously choosing. Saying, okay, I won't do this other thing because it doesn't fit into those priorities. That takes discipline.
Which is where time tracking comes back in, isn't it? Actually figuring out where the hours are going.
It sounds like a chore, maybe, logging activities frequently, even every few minutes, like she sometimes suggests.
Every 6 minutes sounds intense.
Yeah. I mean, a bit much for everyone. But the principle is sound. Become aware of those little pockets of time that just disappear. Spreadsheets help visualize it.
And Vanderkam did it herself, right? Found out she was working about 50 hours a week.
Yeah, it helped her see, okay, I want more focused time with my son, or I need to prioritize these work tasks over those. It's about making informed choices.
Like that prosecutor she mentions, Jill Starashevsky, writing poetry on her commute.
Fantastic example. Using those little bits of in-between time for something meaningful.
It really makes you rethink downtime. Now, you mentioned something earlier that struck me, this idea that work-life balance isn't always a trade-off.
Yeah, we get fed this narrative that it's always a competition, right? Career versus family. One has to suffer for the other.
Totally. But Vanderkam gives these examples of people who seem to manage both pretty well.
Right, like the marathon running governor with 5 kids, or the finance guy who always reads to his kids, entrepreneurs who also farm. These are real people.
So what's the secret? Is it just superhuman ability?
She argues it's not about finding secret hours. It's about making time. It's about choosing what matters and building your life around those choices, intentionally.
Like Lee Ingram, the blogger who got a book deal.
Exactly. She built her career breakthrough while managing family life. She was super focused during school hours, then had dedicated email time later. Those are conscious choices.
Vanderkam also mentions that idea of working to the point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, suggesting that crazy long hours aren't always the most productive. But putting in focused effort, maybe around 30 hours a week as a baseline, is key for building momentum. It's about the focus, not just the sheer quantity.
Okay, that makes sense. And this connects to what she calls the new home economics, how families manage time now versus, say, the 1950s or 60s.
It's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Think about the Mrs. Mayor image from old cleaning ads. Life involved so much housework back then.
Constant washing, cleaning, cooking from scratch.
Unimaginable amounts of labor compared to today. And of course, many more women are in the paid workforce now.
But here's the counterintuitive part. Parents today, on average, spend more direct time with their kids than parents did back then.
Right. University of Maryland data backs that up. More interactive childcare time from both moms and dads.
So if housework time went way down, but kid time went up, what gave?
Well, the housework reduction is key to this new economics. We
Yeah.
need to do less of it.
Lower standards, basically. Smaller families help, but mostly it's lower standards for housekeeping.
Seems to be the main driver. But, ironically, while housekeeping standards dropped, parenting standards have often gone.
Through the roof. The pressure for organic everything, hyper-sanitizing, endless activities.
Exactly. Vanderkam argues we should focus on the things only parents can really give, the rituals, the values, the shared memories, like James Anderson's family reading trips.
That sounds amazing. And she has practical tips too, right? Like maybe ditching the strict routines some nights, cutting back evening TV.
The spouse conference to coordinate. Little things.
And integrating work and life, like maybe blocking out early evening for family, non-negotiable, and catching up on work later if needed, like more in Betty's schedule.
Yeah, finding rhythms that work. And she doesn't shy away from the importance of the couple's relationship either, how kid-free time has declined.
That Empress Maria Theresa story and the Chumleys, strong partnerships fueling everything else.
Definitely. And it is good to see that dads are generally more involved now, too. That helps rebalance things.
Okay, so that's the home front. What about work itself? Making the most of those hours. She talks about creating the right job.
Yes, this is crucial. It's not just about a paycheck. It's finding work that connects with your passions, gives you some freedom, challenges you, happens in a supportive place. Teresa Amabiel's research really hits on this.
The idea that enjoying the work itself, that intrinsic motivation, is super powerful for productivity.
Exactly. Finding that flow state she talks about where you're just absorbed in what you're doing.
Recognizing those moments, that's a good sign you're in the right place.
It really is. Paying attention to when you feel most engaged. If you never feel that way,
Mm.
maybe it's time to rethink things.
And there's a business case for it too, right? Being happy and engaged means you're more productive, more innovative, helps you stand out. Like the 10,000 hours idea, you need that motivation to get really good.
And she gives examples of people who pivoted their careers based on passion, like Kenji Lopez Alt moving into food writing.
But it's not necessarily about chasing a 4-hour workweek fantasy.
No, it's more about seeking satisfying work, like the Wumbler story, work that feels meaningful.
So the questions to ask yourself are, does this job tap into my passions? Do I have freedom? Am I challenged? Is it a good environment?
Those are the big ones. And then applying the 168 hours principle to work, making sure what you do during work hours actually moves you towards your goals.
Cutting out the busy work versus the real work.
Precisely. Tasks that make a real impact. And taking control of your schedule, knowing your goals, breaking them down, scheduling time to do them, like Harris Brooks planning his career steps.
And it comes back to commitment over just waiting for motivation to strike.
Absolutely, just doing the work. Plus, strategies like preventing crises before they happen, capping time on low-value stuff, minimizing the non-essential.
Okay, so you find the right work, manage your time. What about getting ahead? Making those big leaps. She talks about achieving breakthroughs.
Yeah, and it's usually not some sudden lightning strike. It's often built on groundwork people didn't see, followed by seizing an opportunity.
Preparation meeting opportunity.
Exactly. And knowing what that next level even looks like for you. Setting clear goals, like in that American Express competition she mentioned.
And tracking metrics, right?
Yeah.
Having the data to show your progress.
Very important. Concrete results speak volumes. And being able to tell your story, craft that narrative about your career.
Being consistent with how you present yourself and your goals.
And just being open to possibilities, planning for them even. Like Leanne Shear and Tracy Toomey getting that unexpected book deal because they were prepared.
But then you have to be ready to actually ride that wave when the breakthrough happens, right? Focus on sustaining it.
For sure. It's not just about the peak moment. Okay, so we've covered work, home, breakthroughs. The last piece is the home team.
Right, the support system. Which
Yeah.
doesn't automatically mean hiring help, does it?
Not necessarily. For some, yes, but for many, it's about smart planning, using those strategies. Yeah. Minimize, outsource, ignore.
Figuring out what housework you can just do less of, or what errands can be combined, or maybe even outsourced affordably.
And just having supportive relationships, friends, family, partner, that network is incredibly valuable for freeing up time and mental space.
So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into 168 hours, what's the main takeaway?
I think the biggest thing is realizing you probably do have more time than it feels like, and how you choose to use those 168 hours every week. That's incredibly powerful.
It really puts the focus back on us. First, understand where the time goes, and now maybe do a bit of tracking. Then figure out your real priorities, your strengths.
And then consciously, intentionally make choices to align your time with those things, both at work and at home.
It's not about perfection, is it? Just making your week include more of what actually matters to you.
Exactly. More meaning, more satisfaction.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on this week. Think about one small change, one little adjustment you could make. What's one task, one habit that you could consciously choose not to do this week to make space for something better, something more meaningful within your 168 hours?
Yeah, give that some thought as you go through your week. See what comes up.